two best friends as always, Keegan.
Me.
And Ian.
Also known as the Hat Man.
Return of the Hat Man.
He'll never
The Hat
leave.
Man
He just
strikes
won't.
back.
He just won't leave.
I'll leave when you all have hats.
I've come here to chew ass and put hats on heads, and I'm all out of ass to chew. Starting today, I'd like to start each episode off by reading a comment or question we receive from YouTube, Discord, Twitter, Instagram, or, of course, Patreon. Our very first comment is from Goneco's Videos. That's their channel name, Goneco's Videos, which was left on episode 1 of WichiTaku, and that video was posted to youtube.com/c/exhu_extrahuman. Goneco says, I really like this. It's a cozy treat for us, loyal fans of the channel. Please make more. I love listening to podcasts at night. Well, we are now 6 or 7 episodes in, so I hope that you're still listening, and I hope that you're still enjoying the podcast.
I too love going to sleep listening to podcasts.
Yeah? What's your podcast of choice?
I listen to some of the podcasty stuff Game Grumps have made.
Wrong. The correct answer is you listen to the WichiTaku podcast, you fool.
Yeah, I love hearing my voice in my head twice.
And also just hearing your roommate's voice and your friend's voice all the time.
Yeah, I don't hear it enough. It is weird listening to our conversations back and then having the thought that comes next before it happens.
That is
Oh,
my
yeah.
favorite
Hearing myself-
thing.
Yeah.
Say it, and I'm like, ah.
That is
I
my
don't-
favorite thing about recording stuff for Extra Human. I'll set up a joke in the video, and then I'll be like, oh, I should have said this, and then I say it, and I'm like, yes! Yes! I am a complete person. If you'd like to hear your message read at the beginning of an episode, and, maybe be the start of a conversation, be sure to follow and interact on YouTube, Discord, which is discord.io/exhu_extrahuman, Twitter at WichiTaku_boys, spelled BOIS, Instagram at WichiTaku_boys, BOIS, or WichiTaku on Patreon.
So this week, we're going to be talking about Isekai. Probably one of the fastest growing genres of anime and manga I've seen in a long time. Maybe ever. It has just exploded.
Yeah, I think I'll have to agree with you on that. I haven't seen anything.
See, I'm going to have to disagree with you, and that's only because Isekai isn't just recently exploding. Isekai has been a main part of the genre for years. From the beginning, even. It's just more popular currently in things like light novel adaptations. And also, if you guys were curious, Isekai is translated as different world or other world. Specifically, Isekai Tenni or Isekai Ten'i, and then Isekai Tensei. The first one is to be born in another world. The other one is to transition to another world and be transported there.
So layman's explanation is just it's stories where a character is sort of reborn into a different world one way or the other. Sometimes it's their consciousness gets uploaded into a video game, or they die and they're reborn in a new body somewhere else, or whatever means is necessary to get them from where they started to some place
You can basically divide
somewhere else.
You can basically divide Isekai into 2 parts. Were you sent there by Truck-kun or not?
Where you run over and died. Or
were you summoned
Or
by
you
a very
summoned
hot
there.
girl that you'll eventually suplex? That's one that we didn't put on.
oh,
I forgot.
we
about
never
that
got
one.
super into that, but yeah.
We did too. We really enjoyed that.
I don't remember any of that.
Silly.
I remember it. It was pretty good.
I barely remember any of that show.
Well, you're just rude, so. You're just a rude boy.
So I feel like one of the first ones to pop off of this genre that I can remember is Sword Art Online. It's, of course, become the butt of so many jokes since then, but that was the first one I remember as the popular isekai.
After it became a joke, I became too embarrassed to admit it, but Sword Art Online was one of my favorite isekai for a really long time. Ian, if you had to give a 1-sentence synopsis for Sword Art Online, what would you summarize it as?
You're following Kirito, a beta tester for the game before it came out. It releases, all the players get trapped in, and they have to beat the game to escape. But the caveat is, if you die in the game, you die in real life.
If you die in the game, you die for real!
Yes.
Yeah, I think one of the things that really put SAO over the line was the stakes
Yes.
built into the story. Like, they get you attached to some of these characters pretty hard, and then they die.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then they like cut to the real world where like news stories are rolling about like children being found dead in their homes.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good point. Something that's different about this isekai is that, like Ian said, it's a game. It's a VR game, a fancy VR headset that basically turns off the central nervous system, really, of the players, so that way you can't hurt yourself by moving around. You can move around still in the game, but your physical body doesn't move around.
Yeah.
And basically, if you die in the game, the VR headset will microwave you, and so you get shots of these people who are either dying in the game, or in the very, very beginning, you get shots of like people who are just dying of starvation because they can't feed themselves and they haven't been hooked up to a medical device that keeps them alive yet.
Yeah, and then also along with that, like if any of the gaming gear, or at least if the helmet was being
Removed.
forcibly removed before they finished the game, then it also still microwaved their brain.
Yeah.
So like there was no way to get out of the game besides just being the game.
I really think that the more enjoyable aspect of this is that the anime set out rules and then followed the rules.
Yeah, I think
It
it's
gave
very
stakes,
important.
and then
I think also they really followed with the main character how they really showed with his knowledge of being a beta tester how he kind of became so powerful in the game to a degree.
Yeah, he
Yes.
wasn't just OP at it because he's good at all games. He's OP at it because he beta tested this game.
So he knew where to go, how to beat certain bosses.
And it was a soft reveal, if I remember right.
Yes.
It also had the comedic element of everybody got to like design their character however they wanted.
Oh,
and then once the switch was flipped and they were trapped,
they showed their real
it
faces.
suddenly became them instead of their avatar. And you just get to like cut around a crowd of like a normal like teenage boy standing next to what like looks like a teenage girl, and then suddenly they turn into like a 6 foot tall, overweight, middle-aged man. Just a bunch of the ladies that were in the game suddenly turn into dudes.
Yep.
And if that's not the most realistic thing that we've ever seen in an anime, I don't know what is.
It had a lot of those elements in it, which really grounded it, especially out of the gate.
Yeah.
And so, of course, people dying in it it hit different.
And also, like, they also set a clear, like, ending.
Yeah.
Or it's like, they have to beat the game.
And they do pacing pretty well. Some of the writing's not the best in hindsight, but given when it came out.
I think the greatest downfall of Sword Art Online, and some of the biggest downfalls of isekai in general, is the OP aspect of it. Your main character is almost always overpowered because it's fantasy fulfillment. You are fulfilling a fantasy of the reader in a lot of cases, which then becomes the viewer when it becomes an anime. And I think that's my biggest qualm with Sword Art Online later. Kirito isn't a character. He's a costume for the viewer to inject yourself into the anime. So his personality is rather weak. He doesn't really have one because everyone around him is supposed to sort of fulfill the role that a main character would. And the main character in this aspect is supposed to be someone you as the viewer can project themselves on. But nobody really has personality in it. You've got cute, kind of almost lowly girl. Then you've got Asuna, who is hot chick who's interested in you. And then you have another character who, whatever. is also into you, and then another chick who's also into you, and then another chick that's also into you, and then there's guys who wish they could be you but are also your best friend. And it's like, okay, I get that this is fulfillment. You are fulfilling my fantasies. Could you give me a little bit? Just a little bit. Like, I don't know about you, but of all the fantasy worlds that we're going to talk about, the world of Sword Art Online is the one I would want to exist in the least. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
There's like not much going on in the background, whereas the rest of the ones that we're going to talk about have worlds that feel very populated and full, and there's lore and backstory, and the characters more or less have personalities. Or if they don't have personalities, they're playing with that. They're using that as a storytelling method anyway. They're basically using that as a caricature. If a character is a certain way that doesn't fit with the rest of the story, it's likely because you're not meant to think too hard about it. And then when it comes back to that, it'll address it. Like, I'm thinking of characters who are very clearly villains in That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, or characters who are characters who are of very little importance in Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation. They reinvest, and Sword Art Online doesn't really do that. It's like they reinvested the whole story, which is like a common complaint for this series overall. So
yeah,
Except
there's also the weird sister element.
I don't know what we're talking
they're
about.
like
Okay.
third cousins, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah, the cousin and stuff. Yeah.
it's weird.
Apparently, the only Sword Art Online that got overall positive reviews from multiple people, even after it was done, was Gun Gal. And that's because the original writer wasn't the one behind it.
Because see, that's the funny thing about that to me. I feel like Sword Art Online would have benefited from ending with the first one. I wish they hadn't made more.
That's fair. I can see that.
But I can see how Gun Gale would fix some of the problems for people.
Yeah.
So going back to the genre as a whole, and Sword Art Online's, because of the way Kirito's written, is sort of like is a really good example of why isekai have become so popular. It's so easy to insert yourself into the story mentally. Once you get there, it's so easy to put yourself where they are. Because usually they're from wherever you're from, and they are suddenly put in a place with new rules, new people. Sometimes nothing's the same, and they've got to relearn everything.
But the thing is Kirito didn't have to do that.
Right.
I mean that as in, I think that's one of the reasons why Sword Art Online doesn't age well.
Yeah.
Is that Kirito doesn't have to do that.
Right. It's missing some of that element that really makes isekai what they are, which I feel like conversation maybe later on, because there's some stuff that skirts the line. I feel like even SAO kind of skirts the line of isekai if you really look at the genre as a whole.
Yeah, but that, like you said, conversation for another time.
Yeah.
So the next isekai we're going to talk about is That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, which I think is personally bigger than SAO in current time. Like, there's a lot more. I think a lot more people are excited about it, and I feel like it's a lot more fun to watch.
It's divisive in a different way.
Yeah,
because it's got a bit more politics in it as the story goes along. There's the world building is really where it shines.
Yeah. And also we get a different view. We're not following a human protagonist.
Yeah,
we're following a slime, which
we're also not glued to Rimuru.
Yes.
We're not the camera isn't stapled to his shoulder and that's all we get. We get also so many different little viewpoints from side characters.
Mm-hmm.
I think a very big point that Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime does to differ from Sword Art Online is that they both have OP main characters, right?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Sword Art Online justifies it because Kirito is a beta tester, and so he knows the game. I really prefer the way Slime does theirs, with the main character has these power-ups because at first it's because of the way he died. He gets stabbed, and so he dies in pain and cold and so on and so forth. And then what is essentially a god of the world he gets reincarnated in.
Yeah, I haven't seen it clarified, at least in the show.
It's just implied.
It's as far as it's implied, it's just the world.
Yeah, it's like the universe is hearing him lament as he dies.
And so the first thing he says is, this is painful, as he's dying. And so the new world that he's going to be spawned into is like, okay, you have what is it? Was it pain resistance
And regeneration.
and regeneration? And he's like, it's so cold. You have cold resistance. And so on and so forth. And then he's reborn in the body of a slime. So he can't see anything. He can move around, but like he can't see at first he can't see at all, and then he can eventually see because he consumes. Is it because he consumes enough mana, or is this after he meets the dragon?
No,
Veldora teaches him how to use how to sense mana around him.
Yeah, so Veldora teaches him to see via magicules, which are like the magic of this world.
Yeah, Ian and I keep calling it mana.
Yeah, it's magicules, and they can crystallize if they're in like a large enough concentration.
If an area has a high concentration of magicules, or there's a being that gives off,
as in like, I don't know, like a giant, super powerful dragon trapped in a cave somewhere, hypothetically. He gains the ability to see these magicules, and we see it as like he just gains sight. It's not really any different.
It shows us mana. It shows us the like pretty like iridescent look of the world first to show us how it looks originally before transitioning to something that we would understand.
So they start on the cave. He gains his sight. He essentially eats Veldora, which is you learn like right out of the gate that he can just almost absorb anything, at least can like consume it. And his little helper AI that he has like built into his brain, Great Sage, it like kind of gives him hints as to what to do, and that's all part of stuff he got like as his deal of his laments as he died. And so he takes off, and he has no idea that he's even strong or powerful or anything special. And he gets out of the cave and learns almost immediately like what he's done by removing Veldora. The protector, the thing that's like keeping this forest safe, is now gone, and he quickly learns that he's powerful. Like what he's done has made him incredibly strong. He's incredibly powerful. He stands out from everybody else. He's special. And instead of just murdering everything and becoming a power tripping lunatic like some people might, he just takes over the mantle of protector immediately. Doesn't even question it. I don't think we see him like even have a second thought about it. It's like, okay, I guess I'm doing this now.
I mean, he has a second thought in the aspect of should I do this? Not as in should I do this, but he has a second thought as in,
is it my place?
Am I good enough? And also, please don't call me a god. And to that point, that begins the point of the story. Well, it doesn't begin the point of the story, but it kind of starts to lead you into viewing the world from the monster's point of view. And so world building wise and seeing things from the monster's point of view, you start to see that humans aren't always the good guys. And you also even get to see Rimuru struggle with it, because Rimuru struggles with the fact that in his other world, he was human. In this world, he is a monster. And so he wants to give humans the benefit of the doubt, but that ends up fucking him brutally. And the story doesn't gently lean you into that concept either.
No.
Throughout the story, it kind of touches on there's this warring nation, or there's this almost religious zealot nation nearby that now that Veldora is no longer the protector and there's this new guy, they're like, why can't we claim it? Why do monsters get to have a land? Why don't we just go take it? And then they do, because Rimuru gave them the benefit of the doubt. And a lot of characters that you've come to know and love, they get hurt or die because of it.
And then following that up, it shows how much respect and control that Rimuru. Well, I don't want to say control, but
yeah, because he divvies up control really well.
Yeah,
well, he's mindful of his own power.
Yes,
yeah,
and when he kind of lets his people off their leashes, for lack of a better term or anything like that,
encourages them to do their best. One might say.
Yeah, sorry. And when he tells like, I was encouraging you to do your best, and he acknowledges that he may have made a slight misstep, or he made a misstep. Now let's correct it. It shows how powerful, not only how powerful he is, but how powerful this nation he's essentially created is now.
Yeah.
And that if he really wanted to just go around taking over land, he could do it easily.
And one of the important things I think that sets it apart, at least for me, is similar to Sword Art Online. There are consequences.
Yes.
He doesn't get to just make choices. He doesn't get to just take people out and nothing happens.
Yeah.
If he does something, they make a point to show you what that means.
Or even just show you the beginning ripples of what he did.
Yeah. So if he just eats somebody, it's like, well, this is what you've now set into motion. This is the effect of what you've done. You have some choices how to deal with it.
I think in some aspects they kind of dropped the ball on that. Like, I can't think of the dog's name. But
Ranga?
What?
Ranga.
Oh yeah, Ranga.
Well, that's the son, but I don't know. What
He seems to not harbor that much of a grudge, despite
Well,
his dad and part of his pack.
they explain it away pretty immediately.
Yeah. Still, I still remember it not sitting completely right with me.
It does feel a little weird.
Yeah.
Especially when they go on later on to like put a lot more weight on that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah. But it's kind of one of those things where you start to realize that the storyteller is figuring out where they want to go with this. So at first it was kind of played off like a haha, get it? And also he's totally forgiven. But then later on the mangaka is like, actually no, these things have weight, and what he did was kind of a bad thing and it should have consequences. Never to that, because that already happened.
Right.
We've moved on since then. But to stuff coming up.
Yeah. Like they the orcs are really like,
oh yeah,
that little, it's a pretty quick arc, but that arc is heavy, so heavy. Just like the way they're manipulated, how the way they lose is just brutal. And the way Rimuru handles it defines his character.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite things, going back to view from the monster's point of view, is how they do monster power leveling in this. When monsters are born, they don't have a name per se, and then when Rimuru gives them a name, they level up for the first time, basically.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like they level up quite a few
they level
times.
up the first time.
Yeah,
that's what he got it right. They level up the first time, and
that's fair.
What I don't think they put enough weight on, and maybe it wasn't entirely like decided upon by the creator initially, because I mean it's hard to imagine this dude had just how far this story goes in mind, because it's real expansive.
Yeah, considering how lighthearted it starts off.
Yeah.
It feels very much
Man,
like
it starts off so
Forkoma, and then
lighthearted.
it becomes like an Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
On Titan political.
It's
thriller.
like a continent. Yeah, it's a whole continent. They're dealing with the politics of a continent with kingdoms versus kingdoms and like superpowers, literally superpowers. Yeah, and there's demons and
Anyways, continue.
But as Rimuru levels, you genuinely get to see how that affects his entire crew.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody gains something from that. And like when he really jumps up to the next tier of power, everybody else jumps too. So not only do you get to see what Rimuru can do now, but then you get to also get excited because it's like, oh man, like what's Benimaru gonna do now? Like what is he gonna be capable of?
I also like to point out a fact, when he names the orcs again and designates one to be the head, how basically like the orc disaster change, like how it visually changes and how it acts between different people. I don't think that was really intended, but I feel like it kind of was.
Oh, I mean, it shows that the title he gives, not just the name, but the title he gives to the members of his cabinet have meaning. They have consequence.
You started off saying something you didn't think that they covered very well, referring to the leveling system, and then you moved away from it. Did you want to go back and touch on that, or do you feel like you did cover it enough?
I think it's enough. I mean, if that's the kind of thing they really want to know, I feel like it's best explained in the show.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of it's demonstrated.
Oh, okay. So that's what you felt.
Yeah.
It was demonstrated, not told very well.
Especially like bigger fights, you feel
Yeah.
just how much the power level jumped.
Moving on from that time I got reincarnated as a slime, we're gonna move on over to Overlord, which is an anime I've never really seen, so I'm gonna learn something today.
We're both gonna learn something. I don't know anything about this.
Okay, then I might know a little bit more than you.
Probably.
Ian, take it away.
All right, just to give a brief synopsis of what Overlord is. Overlord follows a person named Ainz. Well, his in-character name is Ainz. He was in the game called Yggdrasil for the last hour of it, trying to make sure his guild stay at the top.
Oh.
And what happens is that it looks like how they depicted it's like he kind of falls asleep while he's still in the game when the servers are going to shut down. They shut down, but then a timer starts counting up. And when he wakes up, he's actually his in-game character.
Whoops.
And when he tries to figure out what's happening, he can't do the game menu or anything like that. And then his guardians, the NPCs of his guild, come up and start talking to him.
Wait, what?
Don't freak out. Stay
This
calm.
is the show with the big dude with the skeleton face.
Yeah, this is the undead. Yes.
Man,
And
the stuff I've seen of this
Yes.
did not give me the impression that this is what it was.
So when his floor guardians start talking to him, he goes out and discovers that he's in a whole new world, kind of similar to Yggdrasil in some aspects. And he decides to spread the name of his guild to see if anyone from Yggdrasil or anyone more specifically from his guild, like some the people that weren't quite playing anymore, were here in this world. And you kind of follow him and how he decides to do that and how he kind of keeps a rein on his guardians from just doing massacres.
So he wound up in the game when it was supposed to be shutting down for good or something?
Yes. What he was doing was that, every gamer,
It was his last hurrah.
he wanted to be he wanted to be in the game and keep his guild at the top since he was the guild leader.
Yeah. And then so the game ended for good.
So how does he end up getting stuck in it?
Oh, like I was saying, it shows that he fell asleep in game.
Right.
And then when the servers were shut down, a timer appears on the screen and starts counting up. And then he wakes up. That's when he can't open the game menu. His NPCs start talking to. Yeah, Yggdrasil is a VR game, but now he's in that world, and it's very obvious that so far that is a world.
The count up, was that the upload of his brain?
I honestly don't know. It's just he fell asleep, then he woke up, then suddenly
yeah, okay.
One of the floor generals are like, yes, Master Ainz, what's going on?
Oh wow,
kind of type thing. And another cool interaction that he has is that more with his NPCs and stuff, is that they see him Ainz, but mentally, that's only a character. In the game, he never really had to interact with them, beyond, just giving him commands.
Right.
But now they're living, thinking beings, and you kind of see him juggle this a little bit. It goes so he has to act like he's the leader, and he's decently smart, but sometimes he go inside his head, his inner monologue is like, what are they talking about? What's happening?
To that end, then, you said that he's an undead character and his guild is undead. Would you say that he's a hero, an anti-hero, or just sort of good and evil is kind of muddled in this?
Good and evil are very muddled.
So he's just a protagonist.
Yes, he's just a protagonist.
He's your protagonist. So
protagonist doesn't have the connotation of good or evil. It's
right.
Just
it's just the dude you're rooting for. You're supposed to be rooting for.
Yeah, you're supposed to be rooting for.
Yeah.
But they do a good job in giving you other characters in the world that you're just seeing their interactions, how Ainz being in this world, being able to use very high level magic that some people, which you hear very rarely in this world, is just near impossible, or you need special items for. And he's just
so, then I guess I have a question. In that time I got reincarnated as a slime, our main character, Rimuru, has to struggle with the fact that in his previous world, he was a human. And so in this current world, he is a monster, but he gives humans the benefit of the doubt. In Overlord, our character is obviously a human, and now he's undead. What sort of, does he just kind of vibe with that? And it doesn't really have any consequences for it? Or
So on that aspect, they almost immediately acknowledge that, because when he's doing some scrying, he sees a village under attack. So he goes like he puts a mask on, some gloves on, keeps his get up so they don't see he's undead. He goes there to save the village, and he summons some Death Knights, and he sees them kill a knight, and he makes a note of just like, I'm not actually bothered by this. Like, I think I should be.
One of his Death Knights gets killed, or the Death
No,
Knight kills a
the Death
regular
Knight kills a
human
knight that was attacking the village,
Oh, okay.
and he's like, okay. And
Like, oh, I
Like,
killed
makes-
somebody, and I
makes
imagine that would suck, but actually,
yeah,
okay.
and it's shown multiple times where if he gets either really excited or gets really angry, there seems to be a light that happens that I think is only shown to us, showing that his emotions are being calmed. So basically, it forces him to compose himself. And I think that's just showing that most time undead, at least skeletons, are shown to be not, have very much emotion to any degree. Even
Yeah.
a lich like he is, like they don't show emotion all too much. And it's just really interesting seeing that it's just so readily acknowledged, and him being just like, all right, let's keep going.
So there's an element to
Doesn't
this
freak
one.
him out.
The initial freak out happens when he's discovering that he's in a different world and he is Ainz.
But it doesn't freak him out where he's like, it doesn't freak him out to know that, like, oh my god, I just watched somebody get fucking murdered. Oh, okay, wait, never mind. I'm chill with this, actually. Wait, why am I chill with this?
Like, there's some acknowledgement to that, but he doesn't have quite a freak out, because then he immediately starts thinking, okay, maybe there's other people from Yggdrasil in this world. He went to like, okay, I just need to spread the name of my guild, so
Okay.
on and so forth. So he kind of,
He just doubles down and starts planning.
yeah, he's double downs because he's so used to playing this character anyways that it's not much of a shift mentality for him, I believe.
So with a lot of isekai, there's different motivations. So you start out online, they're trying to beat the game to get out.
Mhm.
They got to get out. Obviously, it's a detriment to their physical body that they're in the game. They need to get the heck out. Slime, he really just wants to make a place for himself in the world. And there's a little bit of trying to understand why he's there, or if there is a reason he's there at all. But really, he's just trying to carve out a place for himself in this world and make it a better place. Overlord, is he trying to like gain the knowledge to try to get back out, or is he just trying to figure the world out, period?
He's just trying to figure out the world, period, and to find others like him.
So he's not like actively trying to get out.
No.
Oh.
He acknowledges that he's in this world. As far as he knows, there's no going back. So I need to spread my guild name, spread
So I
name.
can become as comfortable as
So that-
possible.
Well, and how this comes to be is that when he went outside and was just looking around, he kind of says under the breath, be like, "Wow, we kind of want to maybe dominate do world domination in this world." And Demiurge, one of the NPCs, one of the generals, is like puts that in the back of his brain because okay, he said world domination, we're going to do that.
Oh no!
And then when stuff starts happening, and Demiurge, and like because he usually asks them to explain their plans to him, because like he always uses the excuse like, yeah, the other generals don't know, so please explain your plan. And it's like, I don't know what's going on. So
Oh no!
it's only just for the generals. It's not for me at all.
I didn't have a plan to take over the
And
world. I
then-
just thought it might be neat.
Yeah, then, exactly. It's like Demiurge's just like, yeah, our master said world domination. He goes like, when the hell did I say that?
But of course, it's like, well, if I'm
It's-
here, then I might as well. I mean,
And-
what if I did?
And like he doesn't just start going out. Like there's good planning, there's tactics, and he wants his generals to experience failure because they never experienced failure before.
Yeah.
So they want to learn that, and one of the generals have already experienced it, and he learned from it, and so he wants everyone to learn from it.
When you're raising generals like a proper parent, you need them to experience failure sometimes. You can't think that everything's gonna come their way.
And when I say when good and evil are muddled, like he's not afraid to have people experimented on.
Oh.
Like
Oh,
no.
that does not face him at all.
So this is real gray.
This is very real gray because he's making alliances with some people and being like, all right, some other things are happening, and
That is
He
indeed a
gets real
stark
Lord
contrast.
Farquaad. Gets
So-
real Lord Farquaad on them. Like,
It's-
some of you may die, but that is a risk I'm willing to take.
it gets real gray real quick.
What are some of your favorite aspects from Overlord that you were like, yeah, we have to talk about this on Isekai Day?
Oh, like obviously how his in-game avatar, how that choice is affecting him in this world, legitimately affecting how he thinks, how he views things, and then having to deal with these very capable generals that are loyal to him and are extremely smart, and him kind of having to play the act of being the all-knowing
And him
guild leader.
kind of being a dipshit.
Well, in
I mean, like
it-
he's generally has a good head on his shoulders. It's just he doesn't realize what his generals hear and what they take in. And in the fourth season right now, he's kind of starting to learn, like, all right, I have to be a good role model for how we deal with something.
And-
Like the first answer to humans defying us is not, all right, let's just kill them all. It's just like there's other ways of handling this.
there are, and what's interesting, Overlord, aesthetically, there are similar shows on our list,
Yes.
but it is easily the most gray for motivation.
Yes.
Like almost all of these have pretty clear and clean motivation. Maybe Dungeon of Black Company is a little gray.
I would say that Overlord has the more gray than Dungeon of Black Company.
just a little bit. Not to write off Dungeon of Black Company.
No, but-
they're pretty gray. But
You just,
But
you,
that
you-
is-
you don't have experimentation in
right.
Dungeon.
Overlord definitely stands out. I had no idea that it would.
Yeah.
It's that different.
And I feel like I'm doing a very poor job of explaining this in a short time frame. So
But that's okay because we can move from one skeleton overlord to another skeleton boy with Skeleton Knight in Another World that just dropped this season, and all three of us fucking adore it.
It is, despite having a vaguely similar look, it could not be any more different.
oh boy, yeah, could not be any more different.
It is goofy and mostly pretty lighthearted, though it does carry some surprisingly heavy themes. I wasn't really expecting that for the first watch through.
It carries some themes that a lot of other isekai anime seem to carry
Yeah,
that I fucking just wish they wouldn't.
that's fair.
I'm so over them trying to cover the themes of things like assault in, well, I want to say kind of anime in general because almost no anime does it well, but particularly in isekai because a lot of isekai is fantasy fulfillment, and so they always go too far in the opposite direction where, okay, we're going to cover this seriously heavy topic, but we're going to try and make a most out of it, guys. Like, it's totally going to be fine. Everyone comes out happy in the end, and it comes across as playing the subject too lightly, where you realize they're trying to play into the heaviness of the topic that they want to cover, but they're trying to make it a swallowable pill.
It's a little too much of this thing bad and not really
No.
why it's bad or any real, there's no real consequence.
Well, the thing is they don't play into enough of this thing bad. They go, this thing bad, and because this person cooperates with this thing bad, this person bad, and therefore the easiest way to take care of this thing bad is to kill this person bad.
yeah. I mean, yeah, that's
so
what I was
what they're
getting
doing
at.
is they're not leaning in enough on this thing bad, and even if you get rid of this person bad, there are still consequences. There are still consequences to the world, and I get wanting to move away from the topic as quickly as possible,
But then just don't show
just
it.
don't broach it.
Yeah.
Just don't. It's super easy to not have the women in your universe pay the consequence of sexual assault.
Absolutely.
And you almost never see a male character pay the consequences of this, except for the other isekai anime, the healer one.
Oh, well,
But that one
we'll
that one also doesn't cover it well.
this is not, that one's not on our list for a myriad of reasons.
But Skeleton Knight doesn't really, it gets into that topic for a little bit in the beginning because what else are you going to do with elves that you've kidnapped?
Well,
But then it moves away from it and onto other things. Go ahead.
wasn't just elves. The very first episode,
It's a human
It's-
princess.
it's a princess.
Yeah.
It's a human princess.
Yes.
Oh,
it's not
fucking,
just
yeah, there's also that. You know what? Maybe they cover it a little too much
Actually,
in Skeleton
yeah,
Knight, actually.
so
Because there's also the cat people, too.
yeah, it comes up. It's a reoccurring thing. There's a lot of
Why is this a topic that
So-
gets covered in Isekai so much?
So I really wanted to bundle a lot of this up. one of the problems the show has, though it is I find it very fun. I like it a lot, and I think a lot of it is handled well. The biggest problem I think the show has, and it encompasses a lot of what we've already been talking about, is literal white knighting in this. He's a big skeleton knight in white armor, and every damsel's in distress, and he's coming to save them.
I didn't realize that's such a thing on the nose.
Yeah,
right.
It's
there
a little
until you just obviously pointed out.
Literally, he is a skeleton that is a bone white skeleton inside of a white and gold suit of armor, and he shows up and saves every woman in distress in the kingdom. Basically, at this point,
well, he goes above and beyond, and anything causing trouble, he's going for
he doesn't just say women, but
it's kind of weird how often
it just seems.
If I had a nickel for every time,
there's a lot of ladies in the cages,
but it's weird that it happened more than once.
Now, get away from the couple problems from it. I think the one thing that we all enjoyed about it was that his just pure gamer mentality about just being in this world. Like he hears about elves. He's just like, wait, there's goddamn elves in this? Hell yeah.
Yeah.
But it doesn't ever feel like, hell yeah, I'm gonna wife me up an elf.
No, he's just like, there's just elves here. That's goddamn amazing.
He meets a lady elf, and then once it's like, oh, they're dude elves?
Yeah. He's so genuinely excited to meet
a dude elf, and the dude elf is just like, yeah, man, I exist. There's important things going on, and he's like, oh yeah, it's fine, yeah, it's cool. Hi.
It's kind of like white people ending up in POC spaces. I'm a cool ally.
I listened to NWA.
I'm sorry, I didn't take center stage on this.
Snoop Doggy Dogg, am I right? Yeah, it's fine.
Meanwhile, everybody else around them is like,
yeah,
you're weird.
Well,
why are you being weird?
I think it was like the first time we actually just saw like a genuine just gamer mentality of just being excited just for literally everything.
Yeah, and he employs just maximization strategy everywhere.
Oh,
he's like, how can I maximize my movement? How can I get here as fast as possible? What's the best route? How can I take the most stuff?
What if to get from here to there, I didn't follow the path and I just flash stepped across the sky?
No, it's called Dimension Move. Dimension Move.
Oh, that's what it's called.
Yeah, it's Dimension Move, and it is used just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
It's not like if he's not actually walking next to someone, he's not just dimension moving goddamn everywhere.
And multiple times they like give you a fake out where it's like, is he gonna be a creep? Is he like gonna ask for something weird? And then he's just like, money. I would like money and things. I want resources. What resources do you have?
Oh my god. I think one of my favorite things. Go ahead, Ian.
Speaking of resources, when he met the elf that was doing research on monsters, he was just like, give me your goddamn book. Like, you can hire me, you give me money, but above all else, give me your goddamn monster book.
Yeah, I want to know. What you mean you have the fast track to learning what creatures exist here? I need to know immediately.
Okay, that prompts me to a second favorite thing from this. My first favorite thing from this is in the opening, there's one sick opening sounds. Like there's some weird stuff that happens in it, but my favorite thing from the opening is like there's like a screamo opening, then there's a point where he takes a hit from something that looks like it's a cigar. It's probably a blunt. And then lets the smoke out, and there's like a plate of food, and the colors are wild. And then in the story, that translates to he's a foodie. He
is.
He wants to eat. He wants to eat good food. He wants to drink good drink, and he wants to fucking vibe.
Yeah,
I adore that aspect.
He's just here for a good time.
Yeah,
yeah.
He's like, I'm in a cool place,
and then
I want to eat all the cool stuff. I want to see all the cool stuff, and I want to talk to all the people.
And then I fucking forgot what the second point I had was.
He's like the difference between like normally you see the super aggro like I want to fight everything player most often depicted in these like lead roles.
Yeah.
And instead, you've got the lore hunter as your main character.
The other thing that I fucking love from this comes from the Ian pointing out the monster book. Unlike other characters who spawn into a world and figure it out quickly, he goes through the first episode, maybe episode and a half, having no fucking clue.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, he's got this super high-powered armor that he's wearing, right? That disguises the fact that he's a skeleton.
Armor, shield, sword,
Yeah,
all the
he's like a holy knight looking motherfucker.
He's an in-game min-maxer in a whole world.
And so he like shows up at this guild and he's like, I'd like to probably, if it wouldn't be too much trouble, register at this guild. And the guild master is like, or the guild registration person is like, why do you want to register with us? We're just like a local guild. You look like
you look like you're hired by you look like you're hired by a king or something.
Like what? And he's like, reasons and stuff. and then he has to ask really rudimentary questions that everybody else in the world seems to already know. So like, well, what do I gotta do to join this guild? And the guild master kind of like looks at him, and then one of the like local people are like, oh, gather up like 3 monsters, 2 foxes, 5 squirrels, and stop a bandit. And he's like, oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I knew that.
Another thing that I kind of find funny is Ponta.
Ponta!
His spirit animal that seems to clear his name with all elves.
One of his
any given moment.
Yeah.
It's just like, I think the first time when his female elf companion realizes that she's a skeleton, goes like, you're evil. And then Ponta shows up over her shoulder and goes like, wait, that's a spirit animal. They don't usually hang around with evil people. Maybe you're a good guy.
And then it's like, were you cursed? And he's like, yeah, totally. I was cursed.
It is his backstory. He had it in the thing in the game where he's cursed.
The reason he's a skeleton is because the character he was playing, we don't really have a full explanation of like what the game even really was or how he wound up injected into this game world. It's not even really expressed to be much of a game world because he doesn't seem to know much about the world that he's in. But he created this character because he thought it was cool. Just everything about him is because it was like he thought it was neat, and now he's stuck living in it.
Yeah, like he justified choosing a skeleton as his avatar was. Oh yeah, like I was a warrior that was cursed to look like an undead essentially. And now I have to go find a spell or something to undo this.
Yeah,
like this was a very lore.
So we have not
a very heavy lore.
The most you get to see, at least what's out of the animation currently, is his hand.
Oh yeah.
We don't know what his face looks like. We don't know anything more than his voice about what he really is, other than seeing his hand.
And when he does it, he freaks the hell out because it's like, wait, my backstory is that cursed. This one probably won't work uncursed. See his hand.
Oh god. And of course he doesn't like immediately run off to a mirror to try to like uncurse his face. He's just like, I'm going to ignore this.
Well, he keeps uncursing his hand and goes like, I'll worry about this later.
I'm just gonna keep hanging out with the elves and it'll work out. It's fine.
This episode is starting to run a little bit long. We tried to not record for more than an hour when we're in a recording session together. That way we can work on multiple things at the same time. So we're going to call this part 1 of a multiple part series. If you'd like us to talk about your favorite isekai, be sure to leave it in the comments on our YouTube channel. Hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, Discord, or Patreon, and we will try our best to talk about it. In the next episode, we're going to cover Parallel World Pharmacy, Mushoku Tensei, Jobless Reincarnation, Dungeon of Black Company, and The Devil is a Part-Timer, which I feel is going to be a divisive topic for people listening, I think. But thank you so much for listening, or if you're on YouTube watching. And if you would like early access to the podcast, we always upload a day early over on our Patreon, patreon.com/WichiTaku. All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
See you later.